Evening from a very cold, fucking horrible, wintry workshop. It's very cold. It's a bit snowy out there. It's really snowy where I live, but here it's not half as bad, weirdly, and I thought it'd be worse here because this is in the middle of fucking nowhere. But anyway, today in the workshop we have my silver MR2, my other silver MRS, and Thomas's friend Andrew's silver MR2, which used to be mine but I sold it him, and a pile of turbos. Today is a bit of a Stav-Tech science episode because this car is about something really weird, and it's basically, it seems ESSO has got some very, very faulty fuel, which I will show you in a minute with some science, that had fucked this car up. Which is, yeah, I've never had bad fuel, but this was actually 2 batches of bad fuel in over a week apart, no, 2 weeks at least apart from each other, from 2 different ESSO petrol stations, and it's the same problem. Coincidence? I don't think so. I've never had bad fuel before in a car. This is 2 lots, but I will explain. I can't even remember, but I think in a video a few videos ago I shown you this car because we changed the exhaust to a aftermarket stainless manifold and catless mid-pipe and all that shit, and yeah, standard 1ZZ, and it's eventually going to get 180 because 1ZZ is shit. But for now, just to keep it running, because these things are great fun even with a 1ZZ in them, if you know how to drive them, that is. Yeah, keep it going for now while he saves up all the bits, you know, so he can just, when it's all ready, whack it in. But for now, keep it driving. But anyway, he fitted that exhaust while me and him both did it. He did most of it, but it was awkward as fuck, so I helped him out with some of it. And he was enjoying it for a few days. And then one day, he filled it with fuel the night before. Yeah, didn't think anything of it. Then the next day, he started it, and it was smoking like fuck. And it was like, okay. And he explained it to us, and we didn't really know what he was on about. And then he brought it down here, and he's shown us. And fucking hell, it was like clouds of smoke, like clouds of smoke. And it wasn't running well either, but yeah. So it was like, well, it's, you know, it's fucked. And 1ZZs are so cheap and shit, it was like, wow, it's fucked. No point fixing it. And there's also number 4 silver MR2 out there, which is Thomas's, but originally also belonged to me, because this used to belong to me too. Everything belongs to me at one point, it seems. Anyway, that one had a perfectly good engine, and it's going to get 180'd as well. So Thomas was like, fuck it, this engine's knackered, just take the one out of that and put it in this. So all of this week just gone, because Sunday today, Andrew's been down here basically swapping the engines. So he got that one out. I helped him get that one out, I don't know, about a week ago. And then this week he put this one back in himself because I wasn't here. And it ran, but it was still smoking like fuck. And that engine was fine. And this is like a lot of smoke. I mean, like a smoke bomb. You've never seen anything like it. And it was like, what the actual fuck is that? Yeah, and this is relatively cold. It hasn't ran for a little while, hour or so. It's worse when it's hot. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, you'd think, yeah, that's fucked. But this is what the old engine did, not the new one. This had never smoked, so it's like, what the fuck is wrong? This is the old engine, and actually it's really clean, like mint inside. So it's like, I can understand it, this being like worn out and fucked, but there's usually like, it would look a bit knackered, but it looks really clean, and it ran fine apart from that. Then today, before I got here, they was trying to solve the problem, Andrew and Thomas, and Thomas was like, you know what, maybe the fuel's bad. Which, you know, it's like the common denominator. So they whipped out the plugs and had a look too on the old engine, and the plugs are fucked, like sooted up, lumpy shit all over them. But the not oily, sooty and fresh too, like recent, not like old plugs. The plugs don't look old, they look, well, they're not old, they're Andrew put these plugs in probably only a couple 100 miles ago, but they're like, it's like fresh soot caked onto them. So it's like, what the fuck? So yeah, of course, Tom's like, maybe it's the fuel, you know. So they drain the fuel into this. Annoyingly, it's like fucking 40 litres worth of fuel. So, and you know, one thing, there's not smell-o-vision, so you can't tell, but that does not smell of normal petrol at all, not even fucking close. So yeah, he did that, and then he went down the local petrol station, which is an ESSO garage, and filled up 2 of those big jerry cans with new fuel. The last time we filled up this fuel was from an ESSO, but not that one, an ESSO about 20 miles away and about 2 weeks earlier. But that is clearly contaminated fuel. That is not normal fuel. But anyway, so he's like, fuck it. So they drained the entire tank, used pump and pumped it all out. You know, the fuel pump, and, you know, with a pipe and blah, 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 and yeah, right mission. And then he spent another load of money on 2 fresh things, pull it in, then they put it out there, let it run for ages, because obviously it's got to take a bit of time to clear whatever it is, if it is bad fuel, especially seeing as these are non-return fuel systems. So if there's any fuel in the rail, the injectors and whatever, it's not going to be recirculated, so it's not going to mix up with the good fuel as easily, if you know what I mean. So we didn't expect it to clear straight away, but it was like, it was getting worse. Like, it seemed like it was just smoking even worse than it did. And it's like, what the fuck? How's that? Why is it getting worse? So Thomas went through everything just to double check. He blanked off the breathers just in case it was sucking through there. No change. He blanked off things like any water cooling ports that might suck in water into the throttle body just in case something's leaking somehow. No change. Nothing of that. It was literally narrowed it down to 100% some kind of fuel issue. Well, it made no sense because, you know, surely the residual fuel is already out. They even changed the fucking back box for another one just in case that one was full of the residue of whatever the fuck that fuel is, because it smells very strange. And it made no difference. And then in the end they took the exhaust off and ran it just with the manifold, and again still smoked like a fucking chimney. And then they even took the bloody fuel rail off and rinsed out and cleaned it out and all that, so there's definitely no residual, and then still no change. And like, this is the breather from the actual engine, And, you know, it doesn't breathe at all. You take the oil cap off, it doesn't breathe. It's a pretty healthy 1ZZ engine. But, yeah, Andrew had spent all that time swapping engines, draining fuel. You know, he was convinced the engine was broke. We all was. But, and then this was still just as bad. It was like, hang on, it's got to be the fuel. It's got to be the fuel. But it made no sense because we'd already changed the fuel and it was still doing it. And while I was revving it and, you know, all this shit, I was like, you know what this white smoke reminds me of and smells a bit like? When you burn or try and burn or heat up like WD-40, penetrating fluid, that kind of shit. It doesn't ignite. It just makes this certain smelling horrible white smoke. Exactly what this smells like. I was like, mate, this smells like fucking WD. And, you know, I think the main ingredient in like WD-40 and other penetrating fluids, like kerosene, like, which is a bit like diesel, but not. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah, kerosene. And anyway, that is, to me, I'm always burning stuff and making messes and catching things on fire and all sorts, so I'm a pretty fucking experienced with what things smell like and smoke like. And I was like, mate, this is like, you know, when you burn WD-40. Obviously, it's not WD-40. There's not WD-40 in fucking fuel, even if it was contaminated. But, you know, it was, something went right. That seemed like it to me. But it made no sense still because, like I said, they drain the fuel. It's that fuel. And then put some fresh fuel in from a different petrol station 2 weeks later, and it was no difference. So it's like, what the fuck? So then Thomas was like, he got that can and tipped a bit on the floor, and I'll show you. That did. Right. I'm sure most of us know what petrol burns like. Pretty clean. Obviously this is like E10, normal and leaded, so obviously ethanol burns even cleaner. Alright. For a start, yeah, it's burning, but it's sooty and black. It's not, it's the normal petrol burns clean. Look, it's black smoke for a start. And also, look at it, it's sort of buh, buh, buh. It's not, petrol's normally gone by now. It burns it up. This is sort of pulsing and black and shitty. No, petrol don't do that. But more to the point, right? It's gone out now. But it's not burnt half of it. Look. Wet, wet, wet. Look. And it's greasy. And you know what it feels like? WD-40. You know what it smells like? WD-40. And like I said, it doesn't even evaporate. Look, petrol evaporates so fast. This takes ages. Look, it's still wet. That stain over there is from doing this same test a couple hours ago. Petrol would be gone. It's like, that's not petrol. It's obviously got some petrol in, I'm sure, but it smells and it looks like WD-40. It's greasy. Look, it's a lubricant. Look, there was a big fire around that, and in the middle it's wet. It didn't ignite it. Fuel doesn't do that. What? Petrol doesn't do that. Fucking hell, diesel don't really do that. But you know what doesn't burn and does do clouds of white smoke and does feel like, you know, greasy like that? WD-40. And what's in WD? Kerosene. I reckon almost 100%, for some fucking reason, the ESSO garages, both of them, 2 weeks apart, 20 at least miles apart, maybe 25 miles apart, both have had contaminated fuel with shitloads of kerosene in it. which is like, they use it for like lamps and stuff. Heating oil, I think, is what kerosene is. I'm not an expert. I mostly know of kerosene because its ingredients are like WD-40, but that's kerosene. It's not diesel. I'm pretty certain it's not diesel. Even Thomas said, I mean, Thomas is a diesel person. He knows diesel like the back of his hand. And he said he didn't think it was diesel. I was like, I don't think so either. That smells and looks like kerosene. What the fuck? I can only guess. Well, there's two ways of looking at it. I don't know much about the petrol tanker industry, how it works, but I'm guessing one petrol station, one petrol tanker goes to multiple petrol stations to drop off, as in the tanker holds more fuel than the petrol station holds. So it's possible the same tanker went to this station where he just filled up, and the one 20 odd miles away, because obviously it could be on the same round because it's fairly local, and it, you know, and filled them both up with this fucking weird kerosene mix of dog shit. But it's a couple of weeks away, so I don't know. Would that be the situation? That garage is relatively quiet, but it is one of, well, the only garage in this town, so it can't be that quiet. And the other one is in the middle of a fairly big city, so I expect that's relatively busy. How often do these tanks need, you know, get filled up? I don't know. But it's the same stuff. It's possible it wasn't the same tanker, but it filled up from the same giant tanker I presume they fill them up from, and that whole fucking tank is full of bloody contaminated, you know, kerosene filled fuel. Fuck knows. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, which we haven't done yet, is these two. I'm going to pour a bit of each of these and see if it burns any different to that, because technically these should be more of a mix of good fuel and not, because when Andrew first filled up, he had some fuel in it, the car ran fine, he just filled, you know, topped up, filled up at a station, and that's when it, you know, at the ESSO, and that's when it fucked up. Whereas this, the tank was basically empty. So this might not be as bad. Don't know. Let's tip a little bit out of each, one at a time, and see. Neither of these smell right though, so wouldn't surprise me if they're about as bad. Now that smells weird, but it does smell quite petrol-y. Even that looked a bit more petrol-y, to be fair. It was a bit more... Don't know. Let's see what this one does. Let's start fire. Oof. So far it doesn't look any better. Maybe fucking worse. Do you see what the fire's doing? Look, it's not. It still looks wet and it's going blah blah blah. It's not. If that was petrol, that would have fucking pretty much gone already. That was only a dribble. But look, it's practically gone out, and most of it's still fucking wet. Petrol don't do that. Petrol burns. What the fuck? Look. Look. Soaking wet. Fuck. And it, yeah, again, smells like WD-40, which is kerosene. I'm pretty, like I said, I'm not a scientist, but I'm 99% sure that's the main ingredient of penetrating fluid. And it burns like it, and it smells like it. Because basically, if you try and get some, I've got any penetrating fluid here, I think it's all run out. But if you get a can of penetrating fluid, spray it on the ground, it does this. It will not catch fire. It says flammable on the box, and like kerosene technically is flammable, but it doesn't burn easy. You'll sit there and it will do fuck all. And if you get it very hot, if you get like, say if you had loads of WD sprayed on fucking exhaust wrap or something, or anything, you know, it just does white smoke when it burns. It doesn't actually ignite. Yeah, look, even now, still wet. Fuel evaporates. you know, petrol. This shit ain't fucking petrol. So basically, look, it doesn't even fucking look. It doesn't ignite, it doesn't evaporate. It will evaporate in the end, just like WD will, but it takes its time. Even now, look, wet. So yeah, really good engine that. But he spent far too long having to change it. There's nothing fucking wrong. Let's try, just because this one too. Fucking hell, this one's very full, so I'm gonna have to be very careful and tip a tiny bit out. This one's rammed. Ooh. Thomas even said something. You know what Thomas said, which I can understand. Hold on, let me put that down. Thomas said something interesting when he looked at the fuel and smelt the fuel and whatever. He was like, it's almost like it's got a load of detergent in it. And looking at the bubbles in that, I don't know if you can see them. You can see what he means. He smelt it and looked at it. It's like it's full of detergent. Right, this time I've spilt a bit much, so this might go up good. There you go. But even this, look, black smoke as fuck. And that one's gone out already, and it's still literally puddles. Look, smoky as fuck. I'm almost inclined to say this stuff is worse than the stuff that Andrew just got. But look, yeah, see? Wet. Look, literal puddle. What the fuck? That ain't fuel. Well, it is fuel, but not petrol engine fuel. Not spark ignition. It's like paraffin lamp fuel. Fucking heating fuel. I don't think it's just straight up diesel. I think it's kerosene? I don't fucking know. But it ain't fuel that you should have in that. And you imagine if he's had this problem, how many other people have filled up their cars and this ESSO has fucked up their cars with this stuff. Because I bet you, looking at what it's done to them spark plugs, it's fucked up the lambda sensors. This car, thankfully, luckily for him, he just decatted it. I bet you this would fuck up cats and stuff good and proper. Fucking hell, if people could prove this, ESSO would be in some fucking... Yeah, they would be paying some compensation. Because even though it looks like this engine's not done any damage due to this, probably. Obviously, you'd have to take it apart to have a look. Just be sure as shit if knackered up the lambda sensors, considering what it's done to the plugs. And the amount of labour time and swapping all this stuff, because what seems like a knackered engine. Fucking hell, if you had to pay a garage to do this, not just the engine swap, but the diagnosis of like what we've realised, cost a fucking fortune. And all because somehow this ESSO fuel is fucked up at the moment. Maybe just this one batch, I have no idea. But 2 different stations, a couple of weeks apart, both the same issue. Look. You know, even the sort of black sooty mess is not what you get. You know, fucking hell, I've put petrol on the floor here a million times and set it on fire by accident or on purpose or whatever. And it doesn't leave shit like that everywhere. Fucking, yeah. Look, it's still wet. Look, it's slippy. This one's not, but it's like sooty fucking residue. You know, there shouldn't be in in any petrol, especially E10, which technically is cleaner, because ethanol is a super clean fuel. Is it black fucking soot? No. This is some dog shit. I don't know, like I said. Kerosene is the closest thing I can pull it to, but I'm sure the amateur chemists among you might know more.